So we saw the list of incarnations, various incarnations, though it is in those verses it says first, second, third. We saw how it's not necessarily that kind of an order, chronological order. However, it's just a list. And also we saw various kinds of avatars. Some are Shakti Avesh, some are Manvantara, some are Yuga avatars, some are Leela avatars. So all of them are listed. And in that list, on the 23rd, we saw Balaram and Krishna. They both were listed, and at the end of the list, we had this verse. Yes, all of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Krishna, why? Because he was already listed in the as part of that list. So that's why the word tu is used, that which says that yeah, all of these are actually plenary portions of the Lord, but Lord Krishna is himself the Supreme Lord. All of the and all of these various incarnation appear on various planets whenever there is a disturbance created by atheists, basically to protect the demigods. And we saw for each word what is the understanding. And then now today we are about to see we also saw what is the Paribhasha Sutra, that this book for this verse is the whole Paribhasha Sutra for Srimad Bhagavat. If there are any contradictions, then we try to understand it from the perspective of this particular verse. And today we are supposed to go over the Jiva Goswami analysis by Jiva Goswami on this verse. So before, and I think we have had some kind of discussion before on the rest of the things. So we will start with Jiva Goswami's analysis. And at the end, if we have anything still you want to ask, we can take that over also. And I have also brought the Avataras chart that is based on Laghu Bhagavatamrita and Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's not super elaborate, but it's pretty elaborate. So we will try to see, and if there are any questions, we can take. And if time permits, we will also look at the next set of verses from 30 to 39 onwards. So in his analysis, he says that how there is consistency in this particular section. If you see from verse 1 until verse 28, it is continuation is there, because the first verse says that Jagrihe means in the beginning, Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord, accepted this form of the Pumsa or Purusha. That means that the Lord accepted the form of Purusha, means he existed before. And here in this particular verse, in the 28th verse, again, we see how Ete Chamshakala Pumsa, again, the word is used, Bhagavan is used and Pumsa is used. And there in the first 1.3.1, the very first verse also, the same words Purusha and Bhagavan used, which is to indicate that the Bhagavan accepted the form of Purusha. And who is that Bhagavan is also clarified in this verse. And that's why 1 to 28 is one block of verses, and they have logical continuation. And this is one argument that Jiva Goswami says. And the next one is reconciliation, in the sense that usually we say, okay, how was the experience of the program? You may say, oh, there was a lecture, there was a drama, there was a dance, but the prasad was not sufficient. So when you say you list all the items, and then when you say but, that means like you're emphasizing something. Similarly, all the list of the incarnations was listed, and Krishna was also included as part of the list. And then at the end of the section, then there is a clear distinction that, okay, so all these incarnations listed they're all incarnations, but Krishna is the Supreme Lord. So that but gives the extra weightage and clarification. And the distinction, the word two wings, is very conclusive that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And he says this is a philosophical statement, it's not a historical statement. So this carries actually weight. And he also says how contradictions within the Bhagavatam could be understood according to this verse. And he also says that how there are so many verses within the Bhagavatam that complements this particular verse, complements the Paribhasha Sutra, like verses 10.2.40 or 14th chapter 20th verse. In this way, there are so many verses within the Bhagavatam that actually complements this fact that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And also we can see that Krishna is the principal subject throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. The cantos 10, the cantos 11, in the beginning of canto 3, it's all fully dedicated to the pastimes of Krishna. In the Bhagavatam, there are around 300 some chapters. and out of which straight 90 are in the 10th canto. So that, and if you include 11th and the 3rd, more than 1/3 of the Bhagavatam is exclusively Krishna's pastimes. So Krishna is the principal subject of the book also. That's also one way to see. And if you see among various speakers, there is a common interest to hear about Krishna. Because in the beginning of the Bhagavatam Sutta, the Shaunaka rishis are asking, why did Krishna appear in the womb of, where did Dharma take shelter after Krishna has disappeared? So these are very direct references to Krishna that they are eager to hear about. And we see Maharaj Parikshit also later hears about Krishna. Vidura wants to hear about Krishna. And that Vyasadeva himself states that Krishna is the primary subject of Srimad Bhagavatam. In the 7th chapter of first canto, we will come later to that. And we see Suta Goswami praying to Krishna, Shukra Goswami praying to Krishna, Maitreya praying to Krishna. So both among the speakers and in the audiences, there is a common interest to hear about and glorify Krishna. And also sometimes we see how Bhagavatam itself is considered as another form of Krishna. So we say, like, when Krishna went back from this world, where has Dharma taken shelter? In the form of Srimad Bhagavatam is an other form of Krishna. And also we hear this famous words which assumes Krishna as the Bhagavatam as the form of Krishna. That how it is the two cantos are the lotus feet, and then the other cantos likewise the form of Krishna is superimposed on the Bhagavatam. And also we see that name of Krishna is glorified in the Srimad Bhagavatam much more than any other names. And also there is a reconfirmation that there is also other literatures like the Bhagavad Gita, Brahma, they also confirm the position of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Everything comes from me. And also the form of Krishna is glorified, not in the Bhagavatam, in various other Puranas. How Krishna's form is more sweet and is supreme. So that we see and Yoga in the 3rd canto of Bhagavatam. Maji himself praying now Gunja. So in this way, there are various verses, and also in the Bhagavad Gita, after he shows the universal form, he also shows the two-handed form. And then he speaks how this form is very rare. Nobody has seen it. In the sense, it's very rare. So in that way, the form of the Supreme Lord, especially the two-handed form holding the flute, is glorified in the Bhagavad also. So comparing all of these things and bringing in what do you call references and analysis on based on this verse and based on the other verses in the Bhagavatam and Purana, Swami presents this analysis that just in these verses from 1.3.1 to 1.3.28 there is consistency. It's a list of incarnations, and it matches from with the beginning verse, and the end verse begins and concludes properly. And the particular there is a proper understanding that can come about in this list. So there we could reconcile the understanding, and there is a distinction clearly mentioned in these verses, and it's a philosophical statement. And then if there are some statements which look like they contradict this particular verse, and then Jiva Goswami gives how to understand those things in the proper light. And also there are verses which complements, not just contradicts, which highly complements this verse. And then we see how Krishna is the principal subject of Srimad Bhagavatam. And both the hearers and the speakers have a common interest in Krishna throughout the Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam is considered as another form of Krishna himself. And name of Krishna is glorified, and the other Puranas and the other scriptures like Bhagavad Gita confirms Krishna's position and his supreme form. So in this way, he offers a whole analysis how this verse is the emperor verse for the Bhagavatam, that this verse is the most important verse and is the evidence, and all other verses follow this particular verse. So in that way, he establishes this particular verse as the Paribhara. And after that, then we see how the next topic comes. But before the next topic, I wanted to present the chart that is based on Laghu Bhagavatam and that Krishnadas Goswami gives. So we can actually speak about that particular section also. Yeah. Okay. So this is how, according to it's Laghu Bhagavatam, Rupa Goswami says that how the Supreme Lord, Krishna, he is actually Swayam Rupa, that is his original form, as a Gopa, as a cowherd boy in Vrindavan. And from this form, then there is Krishna's personal manifestations. All these are happening within the Goloka Vrindavan Dham, within Vrindavan. All these, whatever is listed in this particular slide, they are all happening in Vrindavan. And from this original form, there are other manifestations of Krishna. And there are two types. One is Prabhava Prakash and the other one is Vaibhava Prakash. So when Krishna manifests himself in multiple forms, say for example in Ras Leela, he appears between each pair of gopis, and in that way he dances within each gopi individually, and they're all numerous forms, but they're all actually exactly equal and in their features and mood. And similarly in also in Dwarka, in the 16,108 palaces, he manifests and spends time with all the queens. So they're all actually equal in features. However, there are sometimes he manifests forms differently according to different emotions, but they are literally personal manifestations. Except for the emotions, except for the form, there is not much of a difference. And that is Sri Balaram. He is white in color. He has a mood of service. He has a different emotion. Krishna is a supreme lord, but here he expands himself as his brother who has a mood of service towards Krishna. And the form is also different, the emotion is also different. And also he appears as son of Vasudev, the son of Devaki, as a Kshatriya. In what do you call, in outside Vrindavan, he might manifest differently also. But these are the examples of Vaibhava Prakash and Bhava Prakash. And from this Vaibhava Prakash, that means from Balaramji, the rest of the manifestations come. So from Krishna comes Balramji, and all other manifestations begin with Balramji actually. So from Balramji comes, he manifests like various other forms and emotions differently as Vilasa or Swam. So then there are various forms like Vasudev, Mula Sankarshan, and all of them are manifested. So again, in this Vilasa forms means pastime expansions. From that also there are many categories. There is Niruddha, and from them comes a Narayan, and from them was Pradyumna Niruddha. This is how it is listed. And if you ask like why so, I don't have a reason for that. This is how it is listed. This is how the expansion is happening. And from this Sankarshan, the second Chaturvyuha Sankarshan, there is Swamsha expansions from whom Purusha avatars like Vishnu, Shirodak Vishnu come. And from Shirodak Vishnu, then there are various avatars that come within this world. Of course, not all of them. Like Krishna, he comes into this world. However, he is still the Supreme Lord. But there are many other Leela avatars who are in the spiritual world who come through the Shira. Or there are avatars who actually originate from the Purusha avatars. And there are many types. And I think for this discussion, I just wanted to keep it brief. So if anybody has any questions or anything to clarify, we can take this.
Prabhuji, thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah.
Yeah, please, Prabhu. Somehow I'm not able to see you, but I can hear you.
Prabhuji, this is Keshav Madhav Das over here. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, this entire section wherein clear description about how and why does Krishna take different avatars, in which section and how can we reference that from Bhagavatam with respect to different prakashas? I haven't read about it. How do I get hold of that extensive reading, Prabhuji?
The whole book Laghu speaks about it. It's just this one chart is like brought out from that book. The book doesn't go in this chart style, but all these understandings by reading, they have many devotees have mapped into this structure. So the whole book is just explaining the various expansions, but it sticks to Vishnu expansions like Krishna expansions. Say for example, from Sankarshan, the second Chaturvyuha Sankarshan comes Shivaji also. I don't think that is like very elaborately explained. So he pretty much gives the hierarchy of Krishna's expansions. And he also speaks about the hierarchy of devotees, which is later expanded in Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Sanatan Goswami.
Sorry for interrupting again, Prabhuji. Prabhu,
Yes.
yesterday we were hearing from His Grace
Oh, okay.
and he mentioned that in different yugas, Vishnu or Krishna take avatar as Lord Ram. Lord Ram is an expansion from different expansions of Krishna or Vishnu in different yugas. How do we understand that correctly? If in case you can spread some more light about it.
Means like I would have to see the reference from where it is coming from, because they three are considered as Lord Rama and Lord Krishna. They are all considered as Paravas. Even within the Leelas, they are considered as Paravasta because they are eternally situated in this in the in the spiritual world. However, there maybe he has a reference from which he is quoting that
Okay.
how in some yugas
Hmm.
maybe the original Lord is not coming, and also in one sense, he's always an expansion of Krishna, we could say. All the
Undoubtedly. Yes.
all the
Yes.
in one sense, it's always true for all the incarnations. They are all expansions of Krishna. But there may some yugas, there can be like exceptions, differences, and also sometimes the purpose for which they come may need extra or less or more. So accordingly, different manifestations may come. And also sometimes we see in one avatar there are multiple personalities that come. So I might have to see the reference for what he is giving.
Got it.
But pretty much I would say logic takes a backseat in these
Hmm.
things because they are more like revelations. When we say you forget about the Lord, when we say Haridhar is sometimes referred to as Prahlad, sometimes referred to as Brahmaji. So multiple personalities stay in one. Like when we say even when Mother Yashoda comes, it's the eternal associate, but also there is an other person, another devotee who's advanced enough to play that role. They both together. So it's like little complicated for us to understand logically.
Okay. Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank
Agreed.
you.
Yes.
Means essentially I didn't have an answer. I was just justifying it.
I'm grateful to you for this.
Thank you. So we both are matching.
But Prabhu, I'm only matching externally.
Please. Okay. Sorry. I gave you extra food. Please go on.
Prabhu, one quick this thing about Jiva Goswami's analysis. You said there are complementary verses, right? That
Mm,
complement text 28.
yeah.
I don't know those references, but the way this verse 28 gives a perfect comparative analysis, right? It doesn't just say, I don't know the other verses. I'm not as learned as you, Prabhu. So
सब references है मुझे भी.
but I think there's a difference between verses that just say Krishna is supreme, right? Verses that will glorify Krishna's supreme position, or just say that Krishna is supreme. Verses, a verse that says Krishna is supreme relative to all these other incarnations. That
Mhm.
only this text 28 does. So, do
Yeah.
those other complementary verses also specifically call that kind of comparison and then say that Krishna is supreme, or this is the only verse that does that very clear comparison side by side?
Yeah, this is literally the only place I would say. And that is why he chooses this as Paribhasha Sutra. And usually that comes in the beginning of the book. So in that sense, it matches that logic. Later, there are many places where Krishna is called as supreme, but not like that level of a comparison
Yeah.
is not there actually.
So we can only rely on this verse for that direct.
Yeah, this level of a full list and then coming out with that is like pretty much this is the section.
Okay. And also, one more question. I know you said we should not use logic on this chart. Which point in this chart does the 64 qualities then cut down to 60? Is it directly here on Baba Vilasa, like Narayan, and up
Yes.
it's all 60?
Yeah, post like what you call the Vilasa expansions are slightly lesser. Even still, Vasudev Sankar, the first Chaturvha is considered as still high, more potential, more potencies. Vaibhava are like partially potent manifestations, so they come until I think I would say until Adi. So below that, it's all. Oh no, everything except like down Krishna. Krishna has 64 qualities, and then the rest are all having going to have 60 because they are all Vishnu.
After Vilasa?
Yeah, after Vilasa.
Okay. Actually, in this purport of text 28, because Balram also has 64, right?
Yes, he does not have Venu Madhuri, those qualities.
Acha. Because in the purport for text 28,
However, he is
Balaram,
also, he's not like just any Vishnu Tattva. He has his special place. He is literally the, what do you call, in terms of, what do you call, in terms of, he also has flute. Like he also plays flute. But in terms of the mood is different. In terms of qualities, he can have all those 64 qualities, but the mood is different. So it does not match. So I think these are certain ways of looking at things, and it's not the only way to look at things. So if you when you compare Krishna and Balaram, according to this also, like he is a Vaibhava Prakasha manifestation. The form is differently manifested with different emotions, but pretty much there is no difference. However, still Krishna is the supreme because we do see that even Balaram could be put into illusion by Krishna in Govardhan Leela or in so the we see that for 1 year he is not able to recognize and later he realizes. So if Krishna wants, he could also put put Balramji. And we see when Balramji realizes, okay, Krishna wants him to win. So he understands it does not matter. Me standing here and supporting Duryodhana is not going to work because he ultimately wants it. So he just moves. And the same, when he realizes Arjuna had kidnapped Subhadra, he's disturbed. But he realizes, okay, if Krishna is wanting this, he just takes a backseat. So it's a different emotion. It's not that he cannot accomplish, but still, Krishna reigns over. And in terms of his emotion, also, he is in the mood of a servant. So this understanding of 64 qualities, 60 qualities, it's a certain way to look at things, but it may not come to explain everything at all, every aspect.
Perfect answer, Prabhu. Actually, the purport in text 28, Prabhupada starts to explain how all the other incarnations start to have just specific functions or expression of very specific roles. There, Prabhupada actually lists Balram also with the other. So that's why I was confused, because I always thought Balram was totally on par with Krishna. But I think your explanation makes sense.
The function there could be an emotional difference, because these charts are so complicated. Like Prabhupada is not like explaining the chart. So sometimes when you explain a lot of things, then it's just like generically explained. So when a generic explanation, when you superimpose into a very detailed, granular kind of an explanation, there seems to be differences. But the idea is there is a function that he is a savior Bhagavan. So then he's the one who is serving the Lord. In that mood, he has a function.
Perfect. Thank you, Prabhu. I have a very funny question, but I'll save that for the end.
Okay, thank you.
Hold up the.
Yes. Gail and then Haricharan.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I have a question, but just to repeat, did you say that Bal has 64 qualities or does not?
I am not, because the problem is if I say yes, it is not right because it is exclusive to Krishna. But when we say he does not have, it feels like he is inferior. So that is why I refrain from saying anything about that. So in terms of, there are many other places where we see Chaitanya says there is literally no difference between Krishna and Balramji except for the mood. So we do have those references also. So it may be in terms of qualities he does not have those four. But still in terms of here also by this chart also, he is a personal manifestation, very different from any other manifestation following later. So maybe the following manifestations and Balramji, they are all having 60, but still it seems like Balramji is a very different kind of a category and stands apart. So that's why I'm refraining myself from saying whether.
I understand. Yeah. Okay, Prabhu, just one translation question.
Yes.
So I see in the chart there's Vaibhav Prakash, Vaibhav Vilas. So that makes me wonder about the translation of this word Vaibhav. What is it? The translation of Vaibhav, that word.
Vaibhava means opulence. Krishna shows us Krishna shows us greatness in that sense. It's Vaibhava is usually the word means like opulence. So Prabhava Prakash means like he shows his influence by expanding into multiple, same person, but into multiple forms. So he shows his influence by expanding his influence. Like he was one Krishna, but he wants to dance with many gopis. That he increases his influence on all the gopis by expanding into similar forms.
No, but wait, that's Prakash.
Yeah, that is Prakash. So Prabhava means influence, but Vaibhava means opulence.
Okay.
So here he is showing that I can eternally manifest into multiple different forms and in multiple different emotions. Here I just expanded in different forms, but the forms are very similar and the emotions are similar. But I can also manifest in multiple forms with multiple emotions, means I show my variety, opulence.
Okay, and then when we come to Vaibhav Vilas, how is that word being utilized there?
Means pastimes.
But when you put Vaibhav there, then?
The same, like he is for the sake of exhibiting pastimes, both material creation as well as spiritual pastimes, he is expanding in innumerable ways.
Okay, see all of these words is
okay. There are like, if you see Prakasha and Vilasa, there are only two forms.
Prakash, Vilas.
The first thing is Prakash.
Yeah, Prakash
and Vilas. So Prakasha is pretty much very similar to Krishna's forms. Like it is his personal manifestations, very close to him. But Vilasa is expanded for the sake of multiple different kinds of like pastimes. So within that, again, there are two categories. One is Prabhava and is Vaibhava. Prabhava means when in those forms, there is no qualitative difference. Like between Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, they are all same. They are fully potent manifestations. They all may have different moods, but they are all like similar. But with they have different varying abilities and varying forms, varying emotions, varying qualifications like that.
So you said if I see Prabhav, means that the moods are not similar, no?
The mood is Prabhava, mood is similar.
Yes. And Vaibhav means
The moods are different.
moods are
The forms are also different. Emotions are different. Functions are different.
Okay. Okay, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Thank you. I feel like I passed an examination when I yes. I think Haricharan Prabhu had raised hands before, and then Shilpi. If Haricharan Prabhu already is satisfied, I'm not sure. Okay.
Sorry, I was in mute. Oh, yeah, actually, I thought of asking same question as Mother Gail. I was trying to understand like the differences.
Okay.
Yeah, that clarified your explanation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Sir,
Where do the nine forms come here? And second thing is, what about the three forms of Vishnu? Like in this whole chart, and also all the avatars as well.
okay. So here, if you see from here, like Narayanji comes from Sankarshan Narayan, he is the Mahan, and from him comes another Chatur. From this second Sankarshanji, all other expansions come. All other expansions in the spiritual world and as well as in the those who come into the material world. Specifically, the Purushas come from Sankarshanji, the second Chaturvyuha Sankarshan. All the Purushas, all of them come from Sankarshanji. Of course, Vishnu comes from him and from Vishnu from Garba. However, in the second Chaturvyuha is considered as the source of all the other incarnations. And this is all for our understanding also, because all of these forms are eternal forms. There is never a time that would actually they did not exist and then they came into existence. That's another, what do you call, googly, that these forms are also, though we have a chart, they are all like eternally existing. So we're trying to understand the gradations pretty much. They're all eternal forms.
Thank you, Prabhu. And then all the avatars also are similar, coming from Vishnu.
Yeah, some of those avatars, say for example, Mohini Murti. Mohini Murti does not have a spiritual world or anything. She is not existing. At the same time, Mohini Murti is not like the universal form. So within this world, there are places where they continue to exist. And so there are a lot of details. If you see Laghu Bhagavatamrita, sometimes it's overwhelming because Matsya Avatar still exists within this world also. Within this material universe, within this universe itself, there is a separate place where Matsya Avatar, where Kurma Avatar, they all continue to exist and continue to perform their pastimes, and still they have an existence outside. So there are multiple various details which I'm not fully aware of. However, there seems to be, it's not that all the Leela avatars either come from Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, or some are called Paravatars like Lord Ramji or Singh. They all have their eternal abode. So there are various Leela avatars. Some are well known, some are manifested for a short time, some are manifested for multiple times within a kalpa, like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Shilpi and then Keshav Madhapro.
So I'm just trying to understand this part. So when you said, so for example, Vaibhav Prakash, right? You gave example of Balram. Is there another example than Balram here?
The Vasu in Dwarka is also considered as Vaibhava Prakash.
Okay. So when
there is a different emotion he has than Krishna. The form is slightly different. He's not manifested as a three bending form or anything. Sometimes he also has four hands. When at the time of birth, he shows four hands and then becomes like two hands. So that form is called as, like, it's just the same Krishna, but he has four arms just for the sake of indicating to Vasudevaki that he is the Supreme Lord, to make them aware. So there are some details there, but he is also counted as a Vaibhava Prakash.
Okay. And for Prabhava also, do you have any other example other than
These two are the mainly listed actually.
Okay.
These two are mainly listed usually. Do you think of any other pastimes? Like, I'm not sure, because even in Brahma, the forms are different and they are also shown as Narayan forms when Brahmaji sees.
Okay. And Prabhu, so Vaibhav is same as Aishwarya? Can we use them interchangeably, or Aishwarya is...
It has more of a rasa difference, like a complete rasa difference, but here Balramji is still in Vrindavan rasa.
Okay.
So it could be, it's not that it cannot be. To some extent, this is all his Aishwarya in one sense, Vaibhava, his opulence. Vaibhava is also what do you call enjoyment, grandeur. So multiple, the same word had multiple meanings. Yeah, you can call it Aishwarya, but because we have a strong connotation in Aishwarya Rasa and Madhurya, Aishwarya and Madhurya in terms of intimacy also we have. So the same terminologies when we use for different classifications, then we can get confused.
Okay. So, Prabhu, I'm just trying, and this is a very basic question. I'm just trying to understand, like, what is the difference between manifestation and avatar? Is it the number of qualities, or what is, how do you differentiate between these two terms, manifestation and avatar?
I think we take a lot of, when we have to bring in English words, there are not as much technicality as the Sanskrit words, because you see sometimes Prabhupada will call them incarnations, sometimes they'll call as expansions, sometimes he will call them manifestations. So I think we are not very strict about those English translations.
Okay, so are you saying that avatar is same as manifestation then?
Not necessarily, but here, say for example, in this chart, when I say Krishna's personal manifestations, there it is more like he is expanding them. It's not like avatar. So that is why this whole chart is actually understanding the different manifestations of Krishna, and avatar is also one kind of manifestation.
Okay.
Because avatar is that's again, there are different kinds of avatars, the Leela avatars, Guna avatars, and all of them have different level of what do you call ish in them. Sometimes they are just jivas manifested with a certain, like just in manifested with a certain potency. So the word avatar is a very general word. It depends on how we use it, and according to the type of avatar, then there are difference. In general, all of these are manifestations of Krishna, but again, it's not as simple as that, as we see in the chart.
Okay. Yeah, because why I'm asking this question is because if that is the case, if we can use them interchangeably, then in Vaibhav Prakash, we can actually say, okay, Narsimha is also.
No, it's not, because the English words are not like more. We don't have any, for want of a better word, we are continuing to use.
Okay. Okay. So basically, if I have to understand it, I can use it interchangeably in a way.
Yeah, but understand, if there you cannot confuse also, just
So in
because
Vaibhav
we use
Prakash,
that
yeah. In Vaibhav Prakash, I cannot consider Narsimha as one
as
of
yeah,
them.
because he is very clearly given as, like he is very clearly given in the section below Tada Ekatma Rupa. He will come under Tadma Rupa.
Okay.
Forms and emotions differently manifested.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yes, bro.
I also wanted to check the examples or examples plus the events wherein actually manifests as, and then Lord Sankarshan also goes ahead and manifests as.
Means you want to.
Yes, I wanted to understand more about one, the names or the examples, and two, events because of which this happens.
Means again, that part is not so much why they manifest that way is not so much elaborated on Laghu Bhagavatamrita exactly in my plain reading. I didn't find so much about that or remember. In terms of, say, from the first Sankarshan, the rest of the, as I said, like there is not a time that they have not existed or anything like that also. So to be very honest, I don't remember fully what I read in Laghu Bhagavatamrita in elaboration of them, but I don't remember reading a logic why it is manifested like that. However, it is said was they're all in Dwarka, and also they guard the like go four directions. They also guard, and from this Sankarsha, the second the Sankarshan expands as Garuda expands as Shirodak, and from the same Sankarshan, Shivji also comes. So these are the details given. But why in this way, that I don't remember reading any explanation like that. Hare Krishna. So with touching upon that, coming back to the verses itself that we are seeing in this chapter. So the first 28 verses, as we saw a list, which concluded with explaining Krishna as the Supreme Lord. And then there is in the 29th verse, that anyone who remembers this list is given.